أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Living with the glorious Quran. We stopped when we were giving examples yesterday about those verses that are allegorical in nature, that need explanation, and some of them would have none because only Allah knows, and He has not made that plain in the scripture. Another example will be Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, that Allah, the Beneficent One, is established on the throne. How is He established on the throne? You know what establishment is, and the messages are from Allah, just like I think Imam Malik was confronted with similar question. Somebody said, how is Allah established on his throne? And he gave a number of sentences, and he got angry, and I think part of what he did was to explain, and some said he even exited that questioner from the mosque. Al-istiwa'u ma'lumun wal kayfu majhulun wa su'alu anhu bid'atun wal imanu bihi wajibun wa 'ala Allahi ar-risala wa 'ala ar-rasul al-balagh li'annahu ta'ala kana wa la makana huwa 'ala ma kana qabla khalqi al-makan lam yataghayyar 'amma kan. That the revelation is from Allah. We know what establishment means. It is for Allah to reveal. It is for His Prophet to convey the message plainly to the people, because Allah has been the way He has been, how He has been, and He has not changed from what He has been. And to believe in that is mandatory on every believer. To question that is bid'ah, and so on. So this is part of the allegorical verses of the Quran. Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. We read in another place that the hand of Allah is above their hands. How is Allah's hand? He alone knows. You would not go into explaining how the hand of Allah is. Kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. Everything will perish save His countenance. How is the face of Allah? Nobody knows that, and nobody would go into asking any such questions about that. It is left for Him. He said He has. How that is not similar to ours. He knows how best His countenance or His hands are, and that is left for Him only. Another one is the soul or the spirit. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. They ask thee concerning the spirit. Say the spirit is of the knowledge of my Lord, and of knowledge you have been vouchsafed save a little. All these are Allah's attributes, and they are part of the allegorical. Like Allah descending to the lowest heaven. They said every day He descends. Something about laughter is described to Him. Legs, fingers, and whatnot. All are part of allegorical verses of the Quran, and no questions should be asked about that, because if you try to explain His attributes or what He says He has, you would go into what is not compatible with what He said about Himself. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like Him. Naught is as His likeness. He is unique. So His hands and the hands of other creatures are not the same. There is a third category. Maybe what we have just said is the second category of the allegorical verses. Now the third, where careful interpretation or contemplation is permitted. There are such verses that will be plain, but where you bring them with others, you'll be able to get the message. And this is where Allah has preferred others above others. If the entire book is a plain prose, everybody can take the original Arabic and read, and it's so simple, then you would not get scholarship from that scripture. But Allah has made it in such a way that many of the verses, many of the messages are so plain and clear in and by themselves. But others need more search, more study, more research to be able to bring the verse that is somewhere in the book and somewhere in the book to be able to understand where the meaning may come from. Ordinary people may not do that, but scholars who have exerted their time and effort in studying the book will be able to bring that message out, and that is what marks them and sets them apart from others. Clear exposition of the divine word because of the knowledge that they possess of the scripture. When we read in Surah Yusuf that he said, after all that we know about his case and Zulaykha, the king's wife, you read in Surah Yusuf where he says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. I do not exculpate myself, because the human soul enjoins to evil, except whereon my Lord hath mercy. Are these words the words of Yusuf alayhi salam or those of the king's wife? This is where scholarship comes to play its part. And the scholars will now explain, starting from where the Quran says, قالت امرأة العزيز الآن حصحص الحق أنا راودته عن نفسه وإنه لمن الصادقين. The truth is now clear, it has come out. I asked him of evil deed of his own self, and he is verily and surely of the truthful. ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين. This is for him to know. That is, if this, for the scholars that said those words are the words of Yusuf alayhi salam. He said, this is for him to know, that is for the king to know, that I do not betray him in secret, and that Allah will not guide the snare of betrayers. Or the wife of the king who now narrated, who now said all those words, now the truth has come out, I was the one that approached him and he was truthful. This is for him to know that I do not betray him in secret. So some of the scholars said these are the words of Yusuf alayhi salam, and some of them said these are the words of Zulaykha, especially where he said, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, I do not exculpate myself. I do not exculpate myself. Was that the word of Yusuf alayhi salam or those of Zulaykha, the wife of the king? Another one is, Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. The Quran says Allah forgives all sins. And this is where scholarship comes to play its part. Allah forgives all sins. All sins. But is that so? Now the book will explain. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. Allah will not forgive association of partners unto him, but anything below that he would forgive to whom he pleases. So there is an exception to what he forgives, and that is where the Quran now explains that yes, all sins are forgiven, but if you associate partners with Allah, then you will not be forgiven, and you must seek for the forgiveness. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا أَوْ يَظْلِمْ نَفْسَهُ ثُمَّ يَسْتَغْفِرِ اللَّهَ يَجِدِ اللَّهَ Ghafurur Rahima. Whoever wrongs himself by committing sin and approaches Allah seeking His forgiveness, he will find Allah forgiving, merciful. So these are some of the verses that require scholarship and knowledge to know their import, to know their meanings. And only the scholars can do that, because they would go within the scripture or within the hadith and get the meaning of what is said. This is just the beginning of the discussion. Inshallah, when we meet tomorrow, we shall take more verses and more examples of such messages that are clear when they are compared and brought together with other verses from the book to get the exact message that we are talking about. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.